All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Athens in Motion Commission to implement the bike and pedestrian master plan. I'm gonna go ahead and do roll call. I am here. Art.
Here.
Teresa. Randy.
Here.
Alan.
Here.
Ed.
Here.
Julie. Here. Craig.
Here.
Lane.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Before we get into our agenda, I'm going to ask Daniel if we have received any public comment from the internet.
No.
We have not. Okay, so I'm going to invite those in attendance who wish to give public comment to come forward and state your name and address. Welcome. Hello.
Hello. My name is Marilyn Zumwalt. My address is 1940 Cherokee Road. I am on the board of the Family Staff Association for Winterville Elementary School. And we have been working and are really interested in safe routes to school by walking and biking. The city of Winterville, I've spoken to the city council, has just received a GDOT grant. It's like a $20,000 grant to explore and promote safe walking routes to school, which is great and awesome, but it's only within the Winterville city limits. And most of our student population is not within the Winterville city limits. We started last year a small walking school bus pilot program that was really awesome, and we plan to expand that next year. It's challenging for a lot of families that are interested in that are on Cherokee Road because in the master plan, I think that section between like the Lexington, area where Cherokee Road and Lexington crossover and Winterville is considered rural on that map, but it's one of the busiest, most dangerous roads, and not like a sleepy country road at all. It is not safe to be on at all. And in the master plan, if I'm understanding it correctly, we're trying to go through it. It doesn't look like there's any plan for a sidewalk or anything. It seems like there's some bike lanes proposed, and that section is also the lowest priority tier, which really was disappointing to a lot of us because it's a road that, even though it's very dangerous, we live right on the road. There are people that walk and cycle every day on that road, and it's scary. And I'm not going to take my children on it. I would like to be able to take my children down the road to school, which is really, it's on the same road. Winterville Elementary School is on Cherokee Road, and there's just not a safe way for a lot of families to get to school safely, just going right down the road. So that's what we wanted to bring up, just here kind of speaking for the FSA and just raising that because we'd like to see at least a bump up in the priority of that corridor and maybe a little bit more thought on pedestrian access down that road. That's all. That's my comment. Okay.
Well, also living on Cherokee Road, I can attest to that the stretch from, certainly from Beaver Dam up, it amazes me how many people walk.
Yeah.
And there's no sidewalk. You're walking in the drainage ditch, and people doing at least 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So
through that stretch.
here's what I'd like to do, because we haven't approved our agenda yet. I'm going to ask the commission if we can, I'm going to make a motion to put Cherokee Road on the agenda for like maybe 10 or 15 minutes without eating to y'all's update too much.
Honestly, I kind of have an update on Cherokee Road, so
Okay.
we could just separate it out and batch it, or we could just include it in staff.
Include it in staff? Okay, so maybe we'll do that. So you guys are welcome to stick around and hear that, and we'll have a conversation. So we'll include that as part of staff updates, and that can fit under other projects, so I don't think we need to make a vote to put this on the agenda. So thank you for your comments. We'll talk about that a little bit today. Great, thank you so much.
And I'm looking at the tiering, and it's bike and pedestrian tier 3. So there are plans for sidewalks, but it's the same tiering is.
We'll come back to that. Let's spend some time on that. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Did you want to do any public comment?
Yeah, sure, I will, actually.
Okay, welcome. This is the hot seat. Hello.
Hey, everybody, I'm Mateo Fennell, I'm the forester for Athens-Clarke County. I live on Cherokee Road, and I am a regular commuter down Cherokee Road, but I don't drive, I don't ride my bike, I run. And it is very common for me to be kind of in that little interstitial space in between like the white line of the road and the grass, just to try to have some level ground. And then I'm playing and watching people's eyes as they're coming at me because I don't want to, run on the other side. So it's surprising to see how fast people go down the road. But I do see a lot of other people using it as well while I'm out there. A lot of people are walking. I would highly recommend us try to look at Cherokee Road as well. It seems like it gets a lot of traffic. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone, I'm going to share my screen with our agenda. Just try and make it bigger so we can read it. Right. So with this month's agenda, we're front-loading staff updates, and that is because we are going to have tool design come in and talk about plan revision, the plan revision process. And you guys might be interested in that too. You don't have to stick around, that's at 5. But y'all are welcome to, you'll get a lot out of that potentially. So they're gonna come in at 5, and that's why we have front-loaded the staff updates, and then we'll have regular committee organization report backs at 5:30. And that should give us a pretty good buffer. The way this meeting goes, I would just try and end it early because I know that sometimes we want space to talk and ask questions. So I'm just gonna keep it at 6 in case we go over either with any part of this with staff updates or with tool design group or committees. So any additions, modifications to the agenda? That I will entertain a motion to approve our June agenda.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And we'll try and get those out earlier. I was on vacation last week. So apologize. Again, my fault, not Daniel's. So we do that. And then we have our minutes from the last month. Can I make this any bigger? Yes, a little bit bigger. Go away. So we talked about, we had some public comments, some issues that folks had. We talked about trying to have a future campaign and the plan revision updates, and T-SPLOST is coming up already again. So any edits to our minutes from last month? All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to approve our minutes from May. I'll make the motion. I guess I can do that. A second?
Second.
Second from Randy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Blaine. Appreciate that. Stop sharing. So with that, we will move on to staff updates. And I know Todd can't be here, but he sent you some stuff, Daniel?
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't have a fancy presentation like usual,
Devastating.
but got some Todd updates. So, the Oconee Street Bridge replacement. In fact, do you want to just pull up a map?
Yeah, I have one pulled up.
Driving the Oconee Street Bridge replacement, which includes a greenway underpass that'll connect Dudley Park to the Easley's Mill trailhead. That contract has been awarded.
Nice.
Surveyors should start appearing on site in the next couple of weeks. There are utility adjustments to occur first. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm assuming that they're going to be marking utilities, maybe. And, maybe what they're saying is, first step in the bridge replacement thing is to adjust the utilities. That would make sense.
Yep.
And then that contract is expected to go out to bid in July or August. So, yay for that.
Great.
Where exactly is the bridge changing?
They're replacing the whole bridge. It's two bridges. It's the original bridge is under here from the 40s and the one that they put in from the 70s, and they're taking it both out and putting in a new bridge. And then with that, we'll get this connection to Dudley Park over Trail Creek.
Okay, so the greenway path from there will just cross directly underneath there?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
right
So
here.
that's nice.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I think it actually, like, I timed it one day and it's about 10 to 15 minutes just to get from that spot in the park to like the other side of the bridge. It's
It's gonna be
But such a
fantastic.
pain to cross the street.
Oh, yeah.
Even in the summertime.
So that's exciting. That is a GDOT project. And we're able to get the bridge replacement wrapped into, or the trail wrapped into their concept there. So that was like, I feel like the first couple of years of my job, like one of the first things I did was, like do the Greenway Network plan where we drew that line. And then like
Yeah, I was gonna ask who drew
a few
that
weeks
line.
later, or I'd say a few weeks, probably a couple of years, I don't have the concept of time. But at some point, Derek Dosser was like, hey, by the way, just so you know, they're replacing that bridge, and I mentioned trail to them. So, cool, we got it in early on in the concept, and while there may be some situations kind of like the Lexington Road interchange where we don't quite have the ability to connect to the Firefly from our on-street facilities, we were able to get in early enough to where we could make those changes, so that's exciting.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Is the intent to maintain the small parking area there?
I think so. I haven't, I know most likely the additional work is gonna be on the Dudley side, because the connection, if you go over into Dudley Park, once you connect into the sidewalk that's in there, that's not really a main section of their trail, it's only like 6 feet wide, Fisherman's Walk.
That's what it's called.
So, yeah. So I think there's the opportunity to make Fisherman's Walk bigger and make that the primary corridor of the trail, so that you can kind of split off and go either up to the Firefly Trail, go down, continue on the Greenway. The next section is Firefly Trail Phase 3. Still a negotiation process for easements. The goal is to complete the project construction by December 2025. So, and that's for the whole project. I know at one point we discussed it. It's possible that once they finish the section through the woods, that would become open, and then while they were working on the on-street section. But I know they've been dealing with some stuff on the negotiation for easements. That's kind of a closed door conversation, so I don't know anything about it.
Because right now with work being done on Moores Grove, several trucks heading up even toward Old Overton, and starting the Meisner plant on Spring Valley, it is just constant 3-axle dump trucks going up and down Spring Valley, taking up the entire lane. And the one guy was behind the other day was doing 50. It took me, I could barely catch me. 50 miles an hour in a 3-axle dump truck on Spring Valley.
Not gonna be able to.
Somebody's gonna get killed
Yeah.
on a bike.
They stop on a dime, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Million times.
What else you got?
The last thing is Sandy Creek Nature Center Greenway improvements. So, this is in Sandy Creek Nature Center, and the impact, I'm fairly certain the impact is gonna be that the section that just reopened back up with the bridge and repair, you could probably tell me better, but I think they're gonna close that down again from basically the trailhead
Yeah, from the
parking lot. Yes.
what's it, Sonat, Science Building or whatever.
Walker Hall.
Well,
Or, oh, Sandy Creek Nature Center, NSAT. The
NSAT, yeah, it's gonna be from NSAT down past Walker Hall, basically to the newly worked on bridge. And a lot of that's gonna be repaving as it's in need of it. But they're also gonna take the opportunity and put some conduit in underneath all that for the possibility of extending infrastructure down to Walker Hall and whatnot, so.
Could I just raise one clarification point from last meeting? I think we were going over this and looking at the plan, and I complained about, like, why do we need a gate right there? And there was some discussion raised about that. I went home and told my wife about that, who she has done a lot at Sandy Creek and she's on their volunteer.
She's on their board.
On their board, and she said, we need that desperately because cars always drive down there if we don't do it, it's just a place where people turn around. She said, if we don't have that, then cars are just going all the way down the bridge.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't proposing we'd not have a gate.
I was.
It's more.
I'm just.
No gates.
I'm just clarifying
Yeah.
for the record that I'm opposed to what I suggested last night.
I recommend you solve your problem at home first and then come back.
No, we did, we took care of it.
Yeah, my recommendation was to use a bollard, like we do at every other trail
Yeah.
entrance.
So I'm in favor, I'm just saying.
But it'll stay a gate apparently. So, unless someone feels strongly, then they're welcome to send a letter to the director and assistant director of leisure services.
And I would be happy to reiterate it to the Greenway Commission.
Bollards, about bollards instead of a gate. Or-
What about whatever your concerns are regarding things Greenway-ish?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and I can understand if you're not familiar, you may not know that's a trail, because it is old US 441. In fact, that little bridge that we cross over is the old bridge for the route. It's pretty cool. Yeah, because you can see the original supports like under there. It's kind of neat. It's like I love old bridges, but that's.
Like when they had like wagons.
Station.
I don't know when it stopped being used.
That bridge is pretty remarkable birding migrations too.
Yeah.
Over Sandy Creek.
Oh, yeah, but
Anything else from
nothing from Todd.
Okay. All right, so we will move on then to staff updates to actual transportation public works stuff. Yeah, what do you want to start with, Dana? You want to start with a budget update or?
Katie, do you want to do your update first or you want to go after me? So with the budget, I have that pulled up. So original budget is $12,000 last year or this year. We spent $100. I'm going to be rounding up because I don't think y'all care much about the pennies. $100 on the name tags for everybody. You should all have those. And then $500 for Georgia Bikes event where we were tabling, I believe, we were sponsor. That was $500 sponsorship. $2,500 for some bike racks, and then $2,300 for some new vests because they were really popular. I don't have the total number of vests. I think that's something I want to work towards at least by the end of the year, where we're like, we can look at those inventories to kind of get an idea how many we gave out and how successful that was for the year-end report. Since this report though, so then that left $6,600, and then we ordered another 20 bike racks, and that's $2,500, and then we ordered, I believe it was $1,000 worth of bike lights through Bike Athens and bike locks as well. And those will be for giving away. So I have a couple bags of those in my car that we're gonna get into our tabling stuff. So we'll have that. And Scott gives, I believe, the bike locks. Okay, how's it going?
Say that again?
The bike locks and bike lights, you're giving those out there at the shop. Are those pretty popular?
I mean, everybody needs both of those things, and nobody really ever wants to pay for them. So yes, we give them away for free.
Cool.
It's very popular.
Excellent. So thank you from them.
How about helmets? I think I asked about this before.
They have a ton of helmets. They're good on, that's, they're covered by the Georgia Office of Highway Safety grant. And I think they give away a lot of helmets there. So that left around $2,061. And the plan by the end of this week, in the next couple of days, we're planning on, there's a conference that Katie was able to go to. It was called the Congress for New Urbanism, is that right? And so that can cover the expenditures from that. And then also one more Amazon order for reflective slat bracelets and whatnots from Amazon.
Kudos in being able to get that close to the actual budget within the last week of June.
Yeah, we always try to
Bravo.
completely finish it off. So hopefully this next year we can get a little more planning ahead of time where we can kind of make a plan, get an idea. I think, I was mentioning this at one point to Lauren, but right now the kind of wrapped up year for the wrap up, I don't know what you want to call it, but year-end report for this commission comes in December. Does the Greenway Commission also come in December with their?
I thought that they were fiscal year, I mean, in June,
Okay.
but I could be wrong.
So it might be worth kind of thinking about shifting that work plan to a fiscal year thing, which would really help us tie the budget to the action items that we have in there.
So the county's fiscal year is on the calendar year?
Nope.
Oh, okay, so you're
Yeah.
like the state.
That's why I'm, right up to the line.
Gotcha.
But ideally, if our work plan, because right now I think the Athens Motion Commission, your work plan kind of goes January to December. And so you kind of have to account for two different budgets within that range. And it doesn't always line up perfectly.
That doesn't always line up very well, no, yeah.
It can be that you have $18,000 if you spend all of it in the fall and half
You might get nothing.
previous years, but then you spend it all in the fall, so the next year you don't have any. So just something to consider, I think, as a commission.
Well, I think it was like, maybe with the idea that we were requesting funds too. And we were having to do that in February when we were requesting them to line up with the budget cycle.
Previously, the commission had to request the funds, and that was a kind of ongoing thing. With it being wrapped into the TPW budget now, it's more like those funds can be used to kind of implement the action items.
What would be entailed in affecting that change?
I honestly don't know.
I think that we could I'll check and make sure that there's not something in our bylaws that says that we're supposed to do this like in December. It might just say like yearly and be kind of vague. That would.
Honestly, I don't think the bylaws even mention this.
And that wouldn't be something required.
No, there's something official in there because we have to do this sort of annual report year end. We have to have an annual meeting.
Yes, there is an annual meeting. We'll see if it specifies when that is, because that's a good point. But I think ultimately it'd probably take like a memo or something to go to the mayor and commission.
That's what I was assuming.
So a vote on y'all's behalf and then going to mayor and commission with, we submitted. And so this could be, I think, the most logical thing would maybe be like at the end of this work plan, this winter, you then do a 6-month work plan to get online with the fiscal year, and then you could maybe include it as part of that like submission of here's our work plan for the next 6 months, and we might even see more changes before then. So that's just kind of pivoting off the top. But yeah.
Any questions or comments about our budget? And Daniel, y'all will just continue to ask for the $12,000.
Yes, we don't even have to ask for it. It's just in our budget.
Okay. Thank you.
But if we would have to ask for an increase if that is needed. So, yeah.
Thank you. What else do you have?
So, the update from the, we'll go ahead and talk about Cherokee Road. So, well, okay.
Do you want to mention about Riverbend Road?
Yeah, so Riverbend Road was, approved. It was on the consent agenda, so the 85% plans are approved and the notice to proceed, I think, has been issued. This is where it gets really heavily into the, engineer realm of things, but basically right away is, acquisition is starting soon and, construction after that. And so this was the last kind of mayor and commission vote before implementation comes.
From College Station to Millage.
This is from College Station to Riverbend Parkway, and then there's a section of Riverbend Road that the commission and their CDO decided to leave as is. And so you'll transition from that multi-use path to bike lanes at the intersection of Riverbend Parkway. And then that goes down to, I think it's Lake Shore Drive. So it's a neighborhood, yeah, right there. And so there'll be a multi-use path to pick up from there and connect to South Millage. And y'all may remember last month we had a public comment about a crash that happened there. So I know that rail is owned by UGA, and as part of the approved plans, they've been coordinating with UGA. So it's the type of thing that could be fixed sooner than later.
So the multi-use path will go past that point?
The multi-use path will connect from Millage.
But past the railroad tracks?
And past the railroad tracks into Lakeside Drive. It's a very short section, but I did, and I haven't looked at it lately, but I did request there be access onto the multi-use path from basically, if you were on a bike, there would be kind of a turn lane for you to go from Sharrow on Millage into, instead of having to, because before it was kind of the truncated domes, the typical pedestrian entrance. And so if you're on a bike, you basically almost have to come to a complete stop and then kind of turn and get up onto the path. And so a lot of people would likely just pass by it and not realize, oh, I could actually be riding on that, but now I don't have a curb cut that I can get over onto it. So that was an adjustment that we made. And then, and then it goes to on-street bike lanes. From this point up to Riverbend Parkway. And I believe there's sidewalks there, at least on most of it.
And just as a minor curiosity, any steps to address the ADA compliance of that intersection of Riverbend and Millage?
I think there's intersection improvements at each of there's 3 locations, I guess. So at least from a pedestrian and bike standpoint, and then with the push buttons, there's a lot of new things that we need to meet compliance on.
Yeah, because there's just curb there now, so.
Yeah, so there is, so we're gonna have crosswalks. I'm not sure if there's a crosswalk going across on that side or if it comes up and over, and then I know there's definitely a crosswalk that comes up to this point, and then I believe it connects over here. But if you could pivot around and look at the signal pole where that retaining wall is.
There's none right there.
Yeah, how far does that sidewalk go to past this?
Stop.
It goes up there. Okay. I can review. I can't remember. It's either that there is all 4 approaches with crosswalks or 3 approaches, or 2 of them. So either way, you'll be able to get it.
It'll be negotiable.
Yes. Yeah.
Exciting.
Indeed.
Right. So Cherokee Road is that project was brought forth from Mayor and Commission, and I believe What was the update?
Do you remember that update that Ronnie just gave me?
It was very brief, but we will, oh, yes, Ronnie and the design team will be in attendance, hopefully at the next meeting, to go over a few alternatives. The goal being to have kind of, here's 3 or 4 phases or alternatives that we could implement and kind of do, we'll have a staff recommendation.
For Cherokee?
Yes.
Or this is the Cherokee side from Lexington.
Yeah, yeah, and this is basically that multi-use path. So to give you context, I might just stand up and point if that works.
Yeah, that's fine.
But people online won't see it, but initially, if you go up to the U-Haul, the sidewalk where it ends, I think,
Point of view?
yeah, I think it might be at Morning View.
Yeah, that's where it starts.
So that's where initially it starts from here. The multi-use path picks up there and then goes up to Beaver Dam Road. And then there's an intersection improvement at Beaver Dam Road. I think it's rebuilding that traffic signal, which may actually already be rebuilt. Do you all know if? Okay, I know that is something that is coming up really soon because there's like some emergency repairs. But that would be a multi-use path up to that point. And then I believe a sidewalk that maybe connects, I can't quite remember how far the extents go. But at one point it crosses the road. And there's a mid-block crossing at Satterfield Park, I believe. Is that y'all's understanding?
Yeah, because didn't we vote to have that, we voted to incorporate Satterfield Park in some way.
Yeah, so let's zoom out a bit. Okay. So with the cemetery being here, or maybe it's like down here, there's a cemetery, so try not to build the trails right there, you never know.
Bad mojo.
Yeah, but I think it's like building maybe the multi-use path up here from that sidewalk, and then it crosses maybe here, and then comes on the south. Once again, I would need to like review. I haven't seen these plans in a while, so hopefully I'll be able to.
A little bit more orientation. So this is the tier 3.
So zoom out a bit.
This is tier 1, actually. This side of Cherokee was brought forth and recommended by the committee who worked on the plan and tool and our elected representatives as one of the 5 starter pack projects. This is one of the 5.
Okay.
1-5 sidewalk starter packs.
Yes, it was originally just sidewalk. And then, I guess we put forth a recommendation, yes, sidewalk, and the mayor and commission at the time said, actually, we want multi-use path. They wanted to go ahead and bring in, the bike element to it in a multi-use path, so they rewrote what we did. And at this point, it hasn't been, there's no designated fund.
But so normally what would happen is when they make their vote, they approve the concept and designate funding for construction. But they knew that would be an increase in cost, and so they didn't want to designate that funding for construction, just they wanted to do plans only. So that kind of set us on the path here. And then at a certain point, we realized, when I came on board and I saw the plans, I was like, well, why aren't we extending the multi-use path all the way down? And that's because it has an existing sidewalk. Yeah, that's Lowe's. Here's Lexington and Cherokee. So then we got a
Pickleball right there.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's pickleball. So then we extended just to see what the concept cost would be, what the construction cost would be from the end of our multi-use path here to the intersection. Then we ran into some major stormwater issues over there. So there was an intersection rebuild and some stormwater stuff, and ultimately the cost kind of ballooned into, I think it's like somewhere in the $4 to $6 million range. And so then there's kind of like, so now we kind of have a few options of, do we do the original scope, and say, from here down and over to the intersection down there, that's what this would cost. and then the ad alternate of what this would cost to do that, or even like bringing it up and stopping the multi-use path kind of prior to it so that we're not fully impacting the intersection. Those are all kind of, I think, different. There was like 3 different things. I can't quite remember. I think Morning View was definitely involved in one of the conversations, but to basically break it down into phasing, so we can get prices for each of those and get an idea of how much money it'll take, because at the moment we don't have construction funds dedicated towards Cherokee. So this would be basically, it's a tier 1 pedestrian, tier 2 bike project that, you know, we would be kind of making a recommendation on based on the mayor and commission of CDO.
Stretch that our guests are concerned about, can you point that out?
So the next stretch from Beaver Dam up to, I don't know exactly, actually I have to pull that.
I think it would be Hickory Drive is where the sidewalk starts.
Yeah, maybe actually.
I'm gonna actually share my screen.
Yes, there's Hickory Drive. I think it's like Bentwood Trail,
Yeah, that's right.
so that's probably
Yeah.
city limits, I guess is why the
I think
sidewalk.
the sidewalk comes out a little further than the city limits, but
Yeah,
not by
okay.
much.
So we have sidewalk here to Bentwood Trail.
And I have the AIM map that I can share if you want me to
You want to take over?
just move up here.
And can you make sure you share your, screen?
Red one.
Come.
So here's the breakdown of Cherokee. Blue is tier 1 bicycle. Dark black is 1. Red, dark, medium gray is 2 and 3. So you can see here, if I just select this, and so you can see here's all of the
Oh, it does go up to city limits. Sidewalk.
So there's the tier 1 priority from Athens Road to,
That's for bike is what we're looking at right now.
yeah. I believe it's also tier 1 bike and ped.
Well, there's sidewalks there.
I just know that it probably, when there's a section of road that says this is tier 1 and there's some existing sidewalks, is it fully sidewalk the whole way?
Just from Bentwood down to Athens Road. That's where it starts, it goes all the way.
And is Bentwood here? Is that what this is?
Oh, no, further down.
Okay, so from Bentwood Trail here into Winterville, it's fully sidewalk?
On one
Just on one side.
Maybe about 20 feet at the end. Doesn't quite make it to the intersection.
Maybe, they might have decided to make this a tier 1 connection to do it on both sides, probably. That would be my guess then, if it already has it. And then you can see tier 1 down here as well. That section in the middle though is missing, so, and that's where I think,
You mean it's the section in the middle is missing from tiering?
just from tier 1.
For pedestrian.
So the section in the middle is the bike tier 3, ped tier 3. So, and so just for clarity on this is, so the Athens in Motion plan, we have funds that get basically, that the commission applies for to go towards the tier 1 projects, every T-SPLOST. And with that, really, it's preferable that those funds go towards tier 1 of either kind or both. Now, with it doesn't necessarily mean that like all infrastructure has to be built in that order. We saw in this last round of T-Splosh that the selection committee really prioritized community requests over kind of staff or plan-driven requests, and so there was a lot of exciting projects brought forward that were maybe tier 2 or 3. I mean,
I would not say that the committee prioritized community projects over, or community bike ped projects over other bike ped.
Yeah, I didn't mean it in like a bad way. I'm just saying that like community members brought forth projects, and those were highlighted and awarded. And so, and there was money maybe pulled from other data-driven processes that could have gone towards like sidewalk gaps, for instance, or that instead of the small sidewalks projects getting funded, they specifically went to communities that had said, we want sidewalks. So rather than doing the data-driven approach to identify where we need to fill in sidewalks, they kind of went with the, request approach. So, a good example is the Timothy Road multi-use path was funded in this last round. That was a project that was brought forth. And it's, currently under development. And so if there are some driven members of the community along this corridor, and you have we often will host events to like help develop projects and get cost estimates and all those kind of things. And so the quickest way to get funding for something like this, I think, is honestly going to be to apply for T-Splosh in this next round, which I believe the applications are opening up this fall. And
But
so,
in terms of like big picture, it seems to me like if that stretch were completed on Cherokee, then you've got a really nice connectivity from the future Lexington multi-use path to the Firefly going out to Winterville. Basically this big loop that you could go anywhere in that area.
and I mean, that also, one of the things that, I haven't gotten to though, that we'll talk about in a little bit, is with the plan revision coming up, the tiers are set this way because in 2016, 17, and 18, I believe, that was kind of the user group that was put together. Like they had their priorities, and this was kind of the results of the data-driven process. One of the things that our consultant has requested is like, if there are preferences in terms of like, we really want to see something here happen sooner because of all the growth and development. So like, it's helpful for him to know that ahead of time. So if that would be a desire of the commission, is to kind of see a loop on this side and like a loop on that side, and prioritize some of these other aspects, the Newton code, all of these things. If there's kind of, I'll call them pet projects, but like we want to know what those pet projects might be before we go into the data-driven process, because we want that to kind of just be factored into the data. So like if you say like, okay, I really like, Daniel lives over on Cleveland Road and I really want that path, and there's just no data that'll support that being a priority, then like, sorry. But versus like we ran everything and then I'm like, well, mine didn't get added, and I think I'm gonna push for that to happen. That it would be preferable to do it the other way around. Right? They know ahead of time where some of these connections and stuff are preferred. There's also our wiki map that we put out for public engagement, which I would encourage y'all to go to. I think it's on our webpage. But you can go and it shows you the network and kind of the existing network today. And it allows you can fill out a survey, you basically make a profile, and then you can put in where you like to walk, where you like to bike, where you would like to walk or bike. You can put in barriers, as well as like destinations. And you can also put in near misses or close calls or crashes that went unreported. because we see that a lot with bike and pedestrian crashes. So if you're running along on that sideline and someone like almost clips you, you know, you can say this spot right here next to this culvert where I was like having to run a little bit further in the road than I would be comfortable with. I had a near miss here. And like that kind of data will also be feeding into the way we do our plan. So, are there any questions?
Or are you going to address sidewalk gaps for later in this meeting? Are we?
The sidewalk gap program?
Yeah.
I can cover that.
Well,
Where I was going is I was hoping to be indulged to bring before the commission an issue brought before me regarding sidewalk gaps. I'll be very brief if this is an okay time.
yeah, something I will mention is that we, remember the small programs that we are putting together, that is going to come out of the safety action plan efforts at a later date. So that's coming. Yeah.
But before, could I just, before we leave the Cherokee
Sure, yeah.
discussion, I'm just wondering about the next steps, because we got this T-Splost opportunity coming up right away. And if you two are going to have the energy and time to put into a proposal, what can the commission do to try to help that along or support? I mean, is there a role that we play in
Yes.
trying to help that?
Well, so Daniel, and I guess Katie maybe, will help the community with their individual, well, they'll review the items that come in as, that fall under transportation, bike, pedestrian kind of stuff. So they will take a professional look at it. We ourselves will be putting in projects that are related to the plan and building out the larger network. I guess, I don't know if we don't personally on this commission review those community projects, something that might come forward to Daniel may know, like when it comes across his desk, if a community or a group has decided to put in a project, he might be like, oh, it's tier 1 on the plan, or it's tier 2 or 3 more likely. This is where it falls in the plan, just as FYI.
We kind of have a couple rounds of input. So there's the initial community events that we'll do where we put the word out. We're like, if you're interested in putting forth a proposal for your neighborhood, come to this meeting. We'll be at Lay Park on Saturday afternoon for 6 hours. And we have staff there who will help kind of walk you through the various types of proposals. If you come in with like, I really want a greenway trail, well, we can send you over to the leisure services table. You know, if it's sidewalks or bike lanes, it goes to me.
At least
Yeah.
that's our understanding of the process, right? We don't know if something's gonna change about.
And but that's something that we've often offered. And honestly, like even we offered it when I was in leisure services aside from the SPLOST
Okay,
office. So like I'll be advocating for us to be doing that, at least from a transportation standpoint. But it's very likely. I guess there's nothing that's been voted. But yeah, beyond that though, what is certain is that all the projects that are submitted, we have staff review of it. And with that, I go through each of them, look at a map, figure out if it's on the Athens in Motion plan, what's the tier. Leisure Services looks at the Greenway Network plan to see if it's on there. And that can just be an informative piece. It's not a requirement that like, oh, well, actually your Greenway project to go through, your backyard isn't on the plan, so we're not going to consider it. It's just something to note to the committee. It's like.
It just seems to me like one of the roles that this committee could play would be to, endorse or have some scale of 1 to 5 or something that our enthusiasm to tell the T-Splost committee.
right, well, that comes forth with the tiering of the plan.
And then there's also the proposals that you'll be putting forward. So, I mean, you'll be competing against the other things as well. But, I guess your question is like, is there a rubber stamp that says Athens
Well,
motion
I'm just
approved?
looking at that and thinking that this makes a lot of sense, and I would love to see that connectivity in there too. And people are taking the time to come and bring it to our attention, and if they're willing to do work to try to promote it, I would love to have a way of helping them. Without writing.
So I think Jared's gonna be online soon. I want to, can you talk about your thing really quickly?
Very
Small?
quickly.
Okay, and then we need to have Katie give her update before Tool gets on, and I don't know what kind of time limit they're gonna be on, so I wanna try and, I don't wanna get too far.
I will be very brief. I was approached by an acquaintance the other day who lives in the Princeton Mill subdivision down at the end of Lumpkin Street. And she's very concerned about the absence of any form of sidewalk or even wide gutter between there and Macon Highway. I'm not entirely sure if her problem is getting to the church or getting to 5 Star for oil changes or going up to George's Low Country Table for dinner, but at any rate, she doesn't feel, or to bowl, but she doesn't feel safe walking there and asked me to bring this up. And I will also in turn point her to the wiki map and suggest that she fill out a profile expressing her concern. But
It does list that section as do not ride, pretty much. It's a red line. It says,
oh yeah,
Don't do that one.
I've walked it myself, and it's
I ride it frequently and it's not comfortable.
that's the one. Yep.
Yeah, that looks like tier 1 connection along Macon Highway up to Timothy Road, and then that tier.
Yep.
2. Let me see.
Well, I told her I believed it was on the radar, and I didn't lie, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's, well, I mean, there's a couple of things. Okay, well, it looks like it's tier 2. When I click on it, it disappears. No, tier 3. So it's listed as a tier 3 on the corridor as a whole for pedestrian. Now, in our sidewalk inventory, you can see here, from a sidewalk gap standpoint, you know, I'm assuming she's talking about from the end of the sidewalk
Exactly.
down. So, yeah, that'll be something that I think we really start to work out through our conversations with AECom as we get going on the safety action plan. Within their scope, they are going to be developing our sidewalk gap, bike lane gap, ADA accessibility plans, basically, those programs. They'll develop both the inventory of what needs to be done and working with community stakeholders and commission, you guys, develop the prioritization mechanisms to determine like the tiering of the sidewalk gap program. And that, I think the thing to decide for us maybe this fall as we start talking about T-Splost is sidewalk gaps going to be something that the commission brings forward, or is that something that staff will bring forward? And I think it depends on when that program gets approved, because if it's a program that we have that's approved and there's funding, then like it could be staff. But you also got to kind of have to feel it out and
Sure.
kind of make a call.
I told her, I said, I'm not the guy to talk to. I might not even know the guy to talk to, but I can at least make sure you get her.
Yeah.
And, okay.
I would absolutely give her a link to the map. Put in, you know, she can kind of draw that in. And there will be more public engagement, and we'll just keep feeding her and the people around you.
Sounds good. Thank you for your indulgence. I appreciate it.
Isn't that a violation of the Safe Routes to School plan too? Because there's certainly not sidewalk a mile south, going south of that school. There's not very far at all.
Which school?
The, whatever the elementary school is there on, up at the top.
No, Barrow's more than a mile.
No, the one up at the top of Westlake,
Oh, that's well over.
yeah, on the corner.
Yeah, this is nowhere near, I think, any school.
I'm talking the school right up there at Baxter.
Yeah.
Just south of there on Westlake, there's not enough sidewalk.
So, yeah, over here, there's, you're talking about the sidewalk connection from the end of the sidewalks here down Westlake?
Yeah, from the school down Westlake.
Yeah.
It doesn't go very far from the school.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, and And regarding like safe routes to schools, what we usually do is kind of a safe routes to school audit, where we like walk the direct perimeter, usually within like a quarter mile, the walk area, and then we identify maintenance needs. And we've started identifying the needs for additional sidewalks and stuff. That they actually did put some more funding towards. And this location has a few improvements that'll be funded through that. It won't include like major stuff like sidewalk capital projects, but if there is, a sign that is not compliant, and you're gonna hit your head on it, or if the push button is not, compliant, there's no apron for people with disabilities to kind of push the button. Judging by, we can look over here and see.
And so Jared's here. I've been holding your update until tools done, and we'll make sure that we get them. Sorry about that. So we're gonna have to move on, but something I'm going to just mention with this whole lay of the land here with our plan, and this kind of, I think, will segue into our plan revision, is that we have 75 tier 1 bike and pedestrian projects. That's just tier 1. You can assume we have 75, you can count them, but there's also tier 2, probably another 75, and tier 3. We are still on the first 5 projects that the original committee recommended. We are averaging getting less than 1 project done a year. We have funding coming through, but there are some bottlenecks in this process. And so just going to point that out, that it's taking a while to get this done. So maybe what we need to do instead of, and basically every time we make a connection, we improve a connection, it's going to bring something else that was in lower priority into a higher priority. So our role is to try and make the most strategic connections we can. And I want to make sure that we're not leaving any significant gaps, and that's going to become harder and harder to do. So really, we need to know what it will take to make this stuff happen faster, because the pressure is coming on. So that maybe means contracting out design or whatever. I don't know. I'm not staff, so that's not my role.
Yeah. I mean, we already do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Contract out design. So
we're getting this from all sides, and people are like, so when are you gonna?
Well, and then the delays always add a lot of cost.
Right, yeah, so there's the political delays. Barber Street took a long time to go through approval. So gosh, I'm just gonna say that's where we're at. There's a lot going on. So it's not because you guys are not a priority. You are. And then so is 90% of that. And then the city's getting bigger, right? So how are we going to do this? How can we make it happen faster? So y'all don't have to wait until you're retired to be able to like have safe facilities. So with that, Jared, are you there and ready?
I'm here and ready.
All right, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. Turn it over to you. Daniel said something like 30 minutes. That's fine with us. And can we just leave some time for questions so that the commission can ask? A lot of us were not involved with the original development of the plan. So they might have some questions about like what y'all are thinking as far as this revision process goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'm gonna cut it even shorter on my end on talking, and I would love to answer questions. I'm gonna do a very brief overview of kind of what very high level what the plan update is going to include, and then happy to answer questions in more detail from all of you. That sound good?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna share my screen just so everybody is on the same page with me. 10 slides. That's all we're doing is just 10 slides.
We like slides, we're nerds.
Okay. All right, perfect. Well, one of them is just a picture and an intro, so we'll keep it going. Well, again, thanks for giving me time and letting me show up late. I appreciate that. Here's kind of where we're going. is I just want to give you an overview. We have a handful of tasks as part of the plan update, but I think that the ones that are here, I want to just spend a little bit of time of doing an overview of what that means, and actually just hearing what you were just talking about project stalling and thinking about is one of the things we want to discuss as part of this plan update. And again, leaving time for questions and answers. So I did want to start with, I think there's some important words that we really want to make sure that we think about as we're getting into a plan update, some of which were part of the original plan, but others I think have become more prominent in recent years. So one, the idea of talking about people first in bicycling, referring to those people and kind of replacing the term cyclist really makes a broad impact on that kind of all ages and abilities, which is another kind of term that we want to focus in on. A variety of bikeways, and obviously bikeways impact how people move on bike, but also can create separation for people walking and rolling within our communities, as well as thinking about the separation for that infrastructure of bikeways. We also talk about trips, and so that connection between destinations, whether it's your commute or recreation, a grocery store, school, or whatever it is, we think that there's a variety of trips that people can take outside of their vehicles. And then the repurposing of streets. We've in the past talked about road diets, but I think that this idea of repurposing and reallocating some of that space is another way that you can deliver projects in unique ways. So I think those are important words as we get started. Oh, I jumped one. One thing I thought this was really valuable. We've been doing a lot of research on, oh, I'm so sorry, things are jumping all over the place here. One thing we've been doing is looking at plans across the country recently and kind of saying, well, what are the ones that are getting things done? And what we are finding, these are kind of the 5 things that are over and over coming to the top, is that the most successful plans are really focused on what their mission is, thinking both like broadly from a comprehensive sense, but also prioritizing what's really important, that they're really relevant to their community, what's happening today, how do we respond, that they're very clear on what their objectives are. Some might say that one of the best ways that you can do planning for like non-motorized, like people walking, rolling, and biking, is to really have a very clear plan on where vehicles are supposed to be, that they're supported. So by agencies, not only like yours and commissions, but also elected officials, business owners, and the public. And then they're implementable, that we have thought through the feasibility of the work and the projects that are being recommended, and that there's structure and policies and programs to support them. So a few of the things that I want to touch on are tasks. We have an engagement and kind of commission meetings task. This is not, we are not doing kind of broad public engagement. There's a lot of planning that's happening in Athens right now, and we want to like learn from, review results from those things. But we do have kind of 4 key meetings with this group. The first one, this is not one of the 4, the one today, would be around goal setting. We're planning for a workshop charrette type meeting with all of you that would be in person, where we get to kind of pour over like certain lines. We want to make that not only really valuable for us like in a planning process, but also kind of fun and engaging. And then we would come back, we would have a review of what recommendations are being developed, as well as the draft plan itself. When we get to network mapping and prioritization, we really want to lean into the fact that the network itself, whether there's revisions to what is there, needs to be all ages and abilities network, that there can be comprehensive in vision, but also something that's a little bit more of a subset of where do we start now and what's the most important to get done, which is ultimately where your tiers originally were going, and maybe there's some refinement that's needed for that to lead us to a project list. What we believe in when it comes to prioritization. Oftentimes that project list is what comes to people's minds. But prioritization itself is more than that. It is the method, and I'm sorry it says carry. I don't know why that is an old version. But there's also rationale in decision making. We believe that if you create the right criteria on prioritization, that you are going to be able to explain why would you do any individual project first to elected leaders, to the general public, because it's part of it's how you made your decisions. And ultimately we want to have it where you're not making bad choices, but there is flexibility built into the prioritization. When we create strategies and recommendations, we want those to be kind of holistic. We want to revisit policies, think about phasing, not only the short term, but also the longer term. What does funding look like in some of those scenarios, and identifying quick wins and how to track performance over time in a way that's not only intuitive, where people see, hey, we understand we're actually making progress and building some momentum, but we're also tracking the right things that make a difference. And then all of this kind of culminates into we really want to develop a project delivery toolkit. There are a variety of ways to do projects, and hearing kind of that stat of you're not making it through the first 5 in the tier 1. One of the things that we've talked about is how do we create process as well as tools for ACC to implement these projects, not just through big capital projects. What is the protocol when it comes to restriping? Are there opportunities through spot treatments? Can we do quick builds that lead to kind of the interim solution before capital project can really get off the ground? And so this toolkit's going to kind of create some of those decision-making processes and allow for projects that are identified in the plan update to be delivered in a variety of ways. Some of them could be done relatively quickly. Maybe they're a temporary treatment until something more permanent is finalized, but ideally you're making change faster and creating network instead of just islands of infrastructure. Okay, there, my 10 slides always end with my kids. This is why I do what I do. And I'm really excited to answer all of your questions.
That is great, Jared. Thank you so much. So I'll open the floor. Maybe I want to actually put it out there. Anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak at this meeting who wants to ask a question first so far. All right, I'm opening the floor to everyone. All the commissioners. Okay, so something I will mention is, yes, spot treatments. I think are potentially, well, I know we haven't done that much. There's a lot in the works, to be fair. Our staff, it's not like they're not busy. They're super freaking busy. Really in the right place, at the right time, seizing these grants, doing things like Raise for North Avenue. But I think our most successful project has been Prince Avenue, which was less than $1 million. Less than $1 million, right? And we see regular people using those bike lanes, not just people in spandex, even though that's fine, but they were using the roads before. Like I was out there in front of Athens-Clarke today, and I just see people constantly coming into town on upright bikes with bags and stuff, just regular old people. I'm like, who is that? I don't know these people. These are not part of my community. I mean, they are, but they're not like my friends. So I would love for more of that. I think that those can be really impactful. Does that jog anyone's?
I have a question, Jared. Thanks for the presentation. You talked about the common features for the successful places that can you give us some examples of communities that are doing it right?
Yes.
Well, I think there's a ton of communities that are like working toward this, and I would say that there's like really big, like the Austin, Texas, the Bostons, like the Oaklands that have like big dollar amounts that are starting to tie to these budgets. But then I think that there's also some like really small communities. We're working with Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I think there's like the city of Spartanburg has recently implemented their first two-way separated bike lane through the heart of their community. I think that you've got some, Birmingham, Alabama has been really invested in making some like big mobility changes and repurposing streets. So I think that people are leaning into, hey, we have to make change quickly. And I wanted to just like echo doing things quickly. There's sometimes I've heard it like talked about as like these like the evolution of the bikeway project, where it's like the final build is something that's like permanent, concrete, like has like all of the bells and whistles. But the successful communities are not waiting the 5 to 10 years sometimes it takes to build that. They're saying there's space available, there's opportunity to make change now. We can change the function of our roadway by adding more space for pedestrians or adding more space for bikes. And then later we can come back and change the aesthetic. And I think that the communities I listed, both kind of bigger and smaller, are doing that well right now, where they're trying to change function without letting like aesthetic and form necessarily get in their way or slow them down.
So like what we've done with Prince Avenue.
Correct. Yeah, I think that, an example, if anybody has been to Austin, I think they're kind of a shining example right now because they're allocating a lot of money to their infrastructure. But they, even with all of the money that they're allocating, their like segment treatments on the, like when they identify a project, they still use like flexible delineator posts, like flex posts. And then they spend their money at the intersections. So that's where they're pouring concrete. That's where they're doing other things that are substantial. And then later, when there's more funding available, they come back on the segment and make it more substantial. So it's a way to identify projects quickly, get something on the ground, and like show commitment to building out these networks. Because I'm sure all of you can have that feeling of like, oh, like this bike lane doesn't go anywhere. And if that's the kind of projects that get implemented across communities, then it doesn't connect together, then you really haven't like added mobility options for a ton of people. You've just added little islands of projects. And so hopefully that would be the goal of this update, would be to like say, okay, you have some pieces you're starting on that are bigger, substantial. How do we build the right networks, and how do we do that quickly off of those? And that's where that project delivery toolkit becomes like one of a really valuable asset and resource for staff moving forward.
You mentioned priorities and being very specific. Now, with us, we talked about, okay, we've got 75 tier 1 projects, 75 tier 2. Have you seen other places where they've been more specific and maybe said, we have 25 tier 1s, 50 tier 2s, 75 tier 3, 75 tier 4s, so that we better target on what's the top 20 as opposed to what's the top 75, which is a lot harder to work with. Has that been have you seen any metrics on whether that's any different?
Yeah, I don't know if I have like metrics. Maybe I could give you like anecdotal evidence or some thoughts on that. We've recently, there was a colleague of mine that talked about like bike and pedestrian networks when you're like thinking in the planning stages as nesting dolls. And so like you start with like every street in your entire network, and it's great. It would be great if you had, sidewalks and bikeways on every one of those streets. But most likely you're going to have some subset of those streets. That's your vision network. Is if we accomplish this network, we would really start to get like people to the places that they want to go. Well, then you create another subset, another like doll inside of those dolls that says this is like where we would like to see ourselves in 10 years, right? It's a lot of projects, but it's a big deal. And then you have this kind of final nesting doll that this is the critical piece. If we can get these pieces right, then it will start to feed into all of the other work that we want to do. every community is a little bit different. Depends on size, depends on characteristics of roadways. I've seen communities that say, these are the only 7 projects that we want to get done, and we don't need to start anything else until those 7 are done, right? But again, that's going to be something that we want to work with you to say, well, what is the right balance there? What can be, one of the reasons we want to look at funding and scenarios is to say, well, is there a balance to say, what's that threshold of tier 1 that we should be thinking about now? And maybe that is a very small subset. And then, your tier 3, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 become a lot larger. So I would anticipate that be something that we talk a lot about with this group specifically.
Great, thank you.
What's the timeline for the draft, or when do we need to have it submitted?
Fast.
Yeah. We're a little bit behind, but I mean, we had a pandemic and all this other stuff.
So are we planning on having the in-person sessions in the near future?
This year, I'm guessing, this calendar year?
I mean, I think my goal, this is for the final kind of those in-person sessions for the public input for this plan.
Or what was do you mean the public input, or do you mean our lecturette?
Yes. I would like to, if we can, get us all together for like four to however many hours, maybe 2 days, where we have a block of time where their staff can come down. I would love for that to happen in the next 2 to 3 months, like before school's back. So maybe 2 months, 1 to 2 months. I think the goals that I'm kind of seeing in my head in terms of timeline and stuff, if we have deadlines on T-Splost 2020, whatever it is, 8, 6, I mean, we're still, the plan revision that we're getting out of this will inform what we're spending the 2024 funding on, but it can also inform really what we're applying for in the next round. So I think it would be great if we had at least a draft, an idea of what we're shooting for this fall, in terms of the overarching plan. But we've kind of, Jared, you want to talk about kind of your estimates on ability to do that?
Yeah, I think that, what we would love to do is try to target ideally sometime in August to have this kind of like in-person charrette kind of workshop space. That's going to guide a lot of kind of like the big picture of what we want to be thinking about. What that would allow us to do is to think through recommendations specifically project related, so that by the kind of end of October, you have what I would say is draft like list of what these projects could be, and they can be like prioritized list. And then from there, we can develop the doc date side of it that can lag a little bit behind what that list is, to where we're kind of finishing up the document early 25, but all of the recommendations, all of the project lists, we have those like toward the end of this year, so that you have that information. We're just really creating a document based on all the information that you've seen.
That sounds great. Yeah, something I'm curious about is with these projects that are more phased, like how can we do it really well? Because at this point we, Prince Avenue, very successful, but before that we had a pilot project, and I didn't even get a chance to check it out. That was contraflow, is that the way to put it? Bike lanes on Barnett Shoals. And that totally got taken up. And this is before this group was seated. That got taken up.
Two-way, not contraflow.
Okay, thank you. Two-way, thank you. Two-way cycle track, bike lanes that got taken up. So we have a 50-50 record right now. And I'd like to, so I think what I'm interested from you all as professionals is how we can do these phased projects and ensure that they stay on the ground and are still regarded as useful infrastructure. And as you said, getting people from one point to another without the risk of having them taken up.
Yeah, I just want to like acknowledge that is a huge part of the battle that every community is facing when it comes to like trying to do something that's interim and not capital like
Right.
project. And I think this is where the project delivery toolkit will help a lot. It's going to say, if you do, like, these are the characteristics of a roadway or of a connection that it makes sense to be doing the interim, right? As you move forward. And what we're going to work through with all of you is like really hammering down what are like those characteristics that you can all stand behind, right? Because that's at the end of the day, the reason that things get pulled up is because there's not really clear rationale that everyone feels like, oh, like I support the reason for that. Yes, you cannot like it, or it can be your personally, it cannot feel like it's a benefit. But if we follow a clear rationale of why we did it, that's what I think is so valuable. And that's where the project delivery toolkit becomes really valuable, because it's going to like identify what those things are, and then why not only your commission, but staff should pursue those.
But if I could just ask, so I'm always curious that it's one thing, we're sort of preaching to the choir in this room because we all want better bike and pedestrian access, but it's all the rest of the people who are complaining every time one of these things are put up, like, oh, our parking spots have been taken away, or we need both lanes of traffic in each direction. And it seems like public education and engagement really needs to be part of this. I mean, it just feels always like every single thing that goes forward, you're pushing against big public opinion, and it, on social media, just gets amplified. How do we deal with that?
Well, we're not trying to I don't want to like get into like over engagement for a community that is obviously doing a lot of planning efforts right now. But I do think that what's going to be valuable is when we put together the why would you do a project here? Why would we prioritize it? That we create, I'm going to use, for lack of a better term, kind of like a PSA or infographic on the value and like the principle behind it. So why would we put a connection? I'm going to use some examples. Why would we put a connection on street A? Well, there are a variety of people that have limited access to vehicles along that street. It connects to grocery stores where people may not need or have a car to get there. Why do we need to add that sidewalk into that place? It connects to a transit stop that has high ridership. Why would we want to add both a wider sidewalk and a separated bike lane on corridor X? It has first of all, there's no access there today. That corridor itself is a barrier, and there's a huge safety problem. Someone was struck and seriously injured. So I think that we need to tell some stories around the value behind each one of these things. And really, it's like us putting them all together so that you have, again, the reason why I think about prioritization is not like just a project list, but as like the rationale for doing something. I hope that like what we decide is important can, like, there are phrases, there are statements that all of you and others can make to say the same things, right? We didn't just put it there because a lot of people like to bike there. We put it there because if you don't put it there, this whole neighborhood can't access that grocery store, right? They can't walk to school, or things like that.
Thank you.
So we'll be trying to tell people like the value behind values that we have. We'll decide what those values are as a community. Like that might be, making sure that people using transit can walk home and not in the mud or something like that. Or maybe a large part of it is safety, maybe it is traffic as our downtown becomes more dense. And we want those people who live close to not clog our roads with big cars. I don't know, I guess we'll decide that so we can defend what we're doing. And I mean, anytime we have robust public engagement, we're gonna have people who are very scared, who are loud, right? And that's good. I don't think we need to be afraid of those loud voices, 'cause that's just part of the process too. We got 1,000 comments on Prince Avenue. And there's still some people who they don't like the zippers because they popped their tires. I'm like, it's either your tires or that vulnerable person. Stay in your lane, please.
Yeah, I think that we really, with this this update, we want to make sure that we're talking about the value. You know, and unfortunately, we can all agree on something that's really important, but it doesn't always mean the same thing of what someone's willing to give up when that thing is important. And so I don't think that we're going to get to consensus everywhere, but if we can explain value and why we're making decisions, then at least people can be informed on the decisions that were made during the plan update.
Other questions, comments while we have Jared here? We'll get to talk to him some more.
Lots more.
Yeah, are you gonna come down in person then?
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for this update. This is, I know this is a while coming. We're really excited. I think we've learned a lot of lessons along the way from the last plan and, you know, going through a couple of cycles of elected officials and, couple of bike ped coordinators. I think that we're in a good position for this update. So thank you. Can't wait.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye.
Well, I feel energized after that. I
Yeah.
feel hopeful.
Let's get going.
Yeah, right. 2 days.
Get him to
Don't worry,
take
Tom.
the job over.
Just gotta come over this weekend.
Of course, those characteristics of projects that are successful would apply to projects in any bailiwick whatsoever.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So true.
I mean, I'm not trying to be cynical about it, but I mean, that's a good sign.
Okay, I will turn it back over to Katie so she can finally give her update. Thank you for waiting, Katie.
Sure, no, I don't have a lot of updates actually. In fact, I think a lot of it's stuff that could happen in committees. But yeah, we've been doing stuff like working on mid-block crosswalks, safe routes to school. The webpage, that's something for the education committee, I guess. Daniel's drafted a page and we started talking about the organization of how that should go. I guess we can continue that, deciding what we want to show. And I did want to ask you all about the crash reports. I think I didn't clarify what was the wish for that to for a report, so a regular report on injuries, fatalities. But that's on my list.
Yeah, we were getting it for a while. I think it was really useful in not letting this stuff get slipped under the rug as just, it was just an accident. So it was useful, I think, I mean, these are real people in our community who are losing their lives. I think you all, I don't know. Don't you have a template or something that you guys were using, or I don't know?
Yeah, someone just told me I should look for that, so.
Yeah, I think that was useful. Is there anything in particular y'all want to see out of that?
I think that it all stemmed from that one high-profile fatality that, what was it, the guy got probation or a very light sentence and all that, and we wanted to, for our own edification, stay aware of the number of incidents and number, severity, and locations of incidents in the area.
Okay.
That was what was going on with that, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, there was usually a mention of like whether the road was like tier 1 bike or tier tiered in the Athens in Motion plan if there were past crashes. Yeah, what were some other potential factors like lighting,
Weather,
weather,
dates, times,
visual?
Yeah, mitigating circumstances.
all that's relevant.
I mean, really, we'll take anything. It's just, we don't want these things to just get like swept aside, right?
What's the span of time you're looking for? Like, today is June 25th. So we couldn't really give you like the June report.
Right.
We've got a few more days. We could give you the May report at the end of June, but yeah, kind of just like what happened this month or.
Yeah, I'd love it to be like about monthly, and it's okay if y'all get busy or something like that, or if you just want the next couple of them to be like, okay, we're kind of playing catch up for a while. That's still, I think it's still valuable to us.
Okay.
You know.
You know, we've talked about sort of sign campaigns and it, when, you know, a lot of places you drive on the highway and see how many people have, you know, how many fatalities from that year or that month or whatever. It seems like if there was a little an electronic sign that could show the number of injuries and fatalities, bike and pedestrian injuries and fatalities that Athens in Motion sponsors or something, and just, you know, show.
I don't want to sponsor anything.
Well, okay, I don't mean that. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. I heard about, so there was a study, and I gotta get more details because I've like heard about it a couple times, but there was some kind of study that identified that like locations where those are actually increase the rate of crashes because people get more anxious while driving. But yeah, basically the idea that I think it's outlined in the in our communications plan that we have for Athens in Motion. But those kind of negative media campaigns are not as successful as the positive. And so a positive would be like, I'm a firefighter and a biker, you know? Like, I'm a firefighter, I walk to school.
I know firefighters. I know some firefighters.
Yeah, or, you know, like, I'm a construction worker.
Bike crashes.
Basically highlighting like various professions and that you're all just people that can also walk and bike, and we're all pedestrians when we leave the car, even if it's in your driveway and the parking lot of your destination. You still get hit from your car.
Absolutely.
Until we get like vehicles that we can go through a store on. I really hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah, but certainly we can take what we learned from this and apply it to a future campaign, which education and communications is throwing around some ideas for that. Katie, I think if possible, I would like the names of the people who have lost their lives so we can say their names. And I know that we'll have to be careful around language and stuff, and like not accuse anybody, I don't know, but we just at least like to be able to say the names.
To whom? What's your audience?
The world.
I will go ahead and say I don't see their names when we get notified of the crash.
Right, yeah.
So maybe in like a year-end thing, I have to find out. It's more with the like families and stuff. I know like the only thing I know is whether or not next of kin has been notified.
Right. So it's an additional kind of follow-up type thing, yeah.
I can definitely understand the desirability of that. I can also understand why the county might want to leave that with the Public Information Office. So, I don't know, just devil's
Yeah,
advocate.
well, I think once the news media has it, assuming they didn't go through some backdoor to get it, that it's public information.
I would assume so, but
Yeah, so
even then, it would require some sensitivity, I would think, yeah. Which I'm sure we would get, yes.
Any other major news?
Thank you. All right, we will move to committee and org report backs. Anything from corridor committees?
On the Lexington Highway, for the 2018 SPLOST project, they have, the county's issued a notice to proceed with it for the appraisal team. So they're starting to contact property owners and start easement and acquisition process. And the 2023 project, they're pushing the public engagement to July. That was the big update for that.
Okay.
So for the multi-use side, and the west side, the 2018.
Okay.
Acquisitions. So it's starting to move along.
Great, great. Okay. And then our own committee meetings, education and communications.
We'll meet, not tomorrow, Thursday, the 27th at 5 downstairs. I don't have any major updates for you all, but we're working on revamping the website. And then I think I had mentioned this before, but we're hoping to have an open streets event at Porch Fest. No major updates regarding that, but hopefully we'll get some on Thursday and can let y'all know.
So if you want to find out more about that.
Mention, I saw something online, there's like some conversations around Boulevard overlapping with Porch Fest, and there was some people in the comments kind of being like, oh, well, I think the city doesn't want them to close down streets for both. I know Porch Fest doesn't close down cities. I don't know about Boulevard. It may be worthwhile to kind of coordinate with both groups. We can talk about it next meeting, but if that's like coordination that can happen before the meeting, then that would be helpful.
Thank you.
I think the old Boulevard does.
Close the street down? Yeah. Is it Boulevard that they closed?
Yeah.
This Boulevard?
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely closed down Boulevard.
All right, open streets, done.
Right with the dogs.
Oops, look, it just happened. Right? Finally did it.
Very convenient.
All right, policy and projects.
We did not meet this month. I had a family emergency, but if everyone would, check the Daniel's fancy webpage there to put in recommendations for bike racks.
And it's still linked in the agenda.
Okay.
So as you're biking about this summer and you realize there's no place for me to park, or is this sculpture at Hidden Gem really a bike rack?
Is there an element of shade that like a brand new building and then Athens Motion Commission says, actually here, we just want to gift you these bike racks?
And I'm tired of the paint being scraped off my bike, tying it up to a road sign.
Yeah.
So definitely.
And we have 20 more bike racks now, so 60.
Got them.
Nice.
Regarding the time, I think there was some, did y'all coordinate at all? Did you talk to Katie at all about?
I was going to bring it up at the most recent meeting, but that didn't
Okay.
happen. So.
Well, could we take like 3 minutes to talk about that here, or?
Sure.
So, who else interested in engaging on the planning committee? Raise your hand.
You mean policy and projects?
Yeah, thanks. I'm on the wrong commission right now. I was thinking about the other one.
Okay.
Policy and projects.
If I can.
Cool.
Yeah, I can't always get away, but I can.
Well,
Regarding-
so, yeah, currently we're doing the third Thursday of the month. Generally 4 to 5:30. Unfortunately, Katie's got a conflict that she has another meeting at that time. So, I mean, me personally, I'm pretty flexible with the day and the time. But how about for you gentlemen, because you've been fairly regular attendees.
It
Is there any,
depends.
any better day than another? Or
No, I'm very flexible with routine interruptions.
okay.
So
So
I
if
would
we
say,
said-
what we need to do is, if we've got a known obstacle for Katie and all that, but if we schedule around that, I would try to make it as much as possible.
Okay. And you are?
It changes a lot, so.
Sure.
Yeah, say so.
Earlier in the day, easier or harder?
Hard. Well, end of the day is good. Friday afternoon is always kind of the easiest to schedule.
Oh, that's a hard stop
Nobody
right
wants-
there.
Nobody wants.
I have plenty of scheduled appointments Friday evening and afternoon.
Maybe a different Thursday of the month. Education is the third Thursday, no.
What, it is this week, right?
Education would be 4th.
Maybe the first or second Thursday of the month,
Second Thursday?
or first.
I did. Okay.
You try it.
All right, we will change it to the 2nd. Okay. And thank you.
And yeah, I'll drop in when I can. That might be easier for me. It's hard for me to do committee meetings the same week we have this commission meeting. I'm already a little bit behind on work. Okay. And then UGA.
Just one thing to mention, we're within Transportation Parking Services, we're developing a new interactive map. And it initially showed parking lots and bus transit routes, but when I was testing it, it's not open yet. It's not posted. There was another link on there that showed bike racks and bike lanes. So I'm not sure where they got that information, but it's kind of nice that we're including that. Maybe I'll share it with you, Danny, and you can take a look at it.
I sent some data to somebody.
Okay, maybe that's
A lot of
where
people.
where it came from.
It's cool to see the results of the data. So
Yeah, so initially started as kind of strictly parking lots and bus routes, and now they're including some bike racks and bike lanes.
Great.
So I'll let you know when that gets posted. Maybe I can share it. Maybe there's an opportunity to link it where the ACC.
that'd be awesome.
Provides.
You mentioned at a previous meeting that these bike racks are no longer for bike rentals exclusively. But I usually just see like these rows of empty racks and then overflowing non-bike rental racks because people don't want to seem like the jerk. And I'm now using the other ones, but I think they all look at me and say, oh, Edison's a real jerk. And could we just get a thing to like have somebody wrap the thing and hide the
Yes,
bike rental?
I actually did mention that to somebody about that, specifically at Davidson Life Sciences.
Right.
I think it's what we talked about.
Yes.
That we kind of need to do a sweep of anywhere else these might be located, and either bag them or take them down, or
Should we just give Art his own bike rack, or? You do your own bike rack? I think that.
Well, I do have a full bike rack, and everybody says, oh, that guy's so special.
You just have to change your name to bike rental only.
Yeah.
And you got plenty.
Nothing's gonna happen if you park there. You're free to park there. Your little secret, our little secret.
Thank you. Greenway.
Daniel already covered the nature center stuff. I think in my absence, y'all covered the E23 lot and the North Oconee Access Road Bridge. But for anyone, if I'm wrong, basically that bridge from College Station over the North Oconee into the E23 lot has been closed. What happened was, I had noticed it, but I didn't put it together, but started noticing an excess amount of erosion coming out onto the greenway itself underneath that bridge. And they made the mistake of looking closer and found problems. So they're having to work on that. So that's something. However, my understanding is either still directly under the bridge or by going up the hill, over the road, back down the hill, the greenway is still open there through to the new Cars Creek extension and everything.
It is. I was just there 2 days ago.
Yes. There was a closure right before the new Cars Creek, but it appears to be open
And that's
again.
reopened again, exactly.
Yes.
It's open all the way up.
Yes.
Do you
And
have anything on when the Waffle House is open?
As far as I can tell, that's like ultra top secret. There's been nobody even willing to, we even stopped calling it the Waffle House thing. It's just that thing there by the road.
What greenway?
Yeah, no, I don't have any updates on that, but I assure you, as I do get any, I'll definitely share.
Leisure Services asks us for updates on it, so. And we asked GDOT, and GDOT asked their project manager, and their project manager asked their construction coordinator, and the construction coordinator, I don't know.
I think that's probably a good description of the whole communication.
Can we do some citizen urbanism and just kind of get out there and make it ourselves?
It's an active construction zone.
At least one day a week.
I mean,
Can we
there's
strike that from the recording?
That's all I have.
thank you.
Well, we can also highlight the importance of greenways in areas where, when you're going along the river and you smell like what smells like sewage, and then report it, and then turns out there was a sewage leak that wouldn't have gotten noticed. And you know, how long would it take for them to notice the bridge if there was not a trail going underneath it?
Exactly, exactly.
Affecting the foundations of these bridges, so.
And nobody confused it with Waffle House.
I will say there's two places where the culvert had been broken and there was another washout on the greenway had been
They
fixed
think
recently.
that's been mitigated.
Yeah, that's
It's-
great. I was really excited to see that. I think that we have a very responsive group of staff and trail team folks.
No doubt.
It would be really cool if we had more trees on that whole corridor.
Just seed bomb it.
Mr. Forrester.
Hey, it would be really.
Can we gorilla plant
I mean,
trees?
you know.
Will that go noticed if trees just start growing?
You know, I'll look the other way.
Something nice and pretty like China berries or.
You see a good fast grower, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the Atlanta Beltline has a great tree council relationship. I don't know how they have put those trees on the power easements though. It's very interesting. We'll talk after this.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. T-Splost 2023. Got anything?
Nothing.
All right. Okay, it's 6. I'll open the floor for any commissioner rounds or comments or anything y'all want to share. Scott already left us.
Yeah, Scott, I think he might have been trying to say something, but it's hard to tell.
Oh, maybe he was. I can look at that real quick. It's probably like, hey, Lauren, finish your meeting
Yeah.
sometime.
Start him on, gotta go.
He had to go to another meeting. There's there's a Bike Athens Joyride. It's Friday at 6 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
So show up at the Bike Athens location under the new location of Daily behind Authentic.
It's fun. And then we meet up at Authentic afterwards.
So probably soon we'll get some dates for this revision charrette, right? Because I think that we need to get that on calendar sooner than later. We're gonna have to block out.
Yeah, Jared was awesome for meeting with us prior to contract signatures.
Yeah.
So I'm really appreciative that he was able to hop on. I asked him, I think on Friday, Thursday or Friday, I was like, hey, what you doing on Tuesday? So I'm trying to get it going now that we have the contract and everything, but a lot of documents floating around for signature right now. We're also doing the Safe Streets for All one, so.
There's a lot of great stuff, I think.
Yep. Soon.
I've got a quick thing. I was writing today, and these are the pleasant surprises, you know, when you have been involved with things and then they just sort of go out of your mind. But I was writing on Newton Bridge, and there was like it was one of those things that might be a little bit nonsensical to anyone who's not paying attention. You know, where the general time is to about. But there's a section, and I got on it, and I wrote on it. I don't know how, I mean, was there a ribbon cutting for it?
There's a multi-use path there?
Yeah.
I mean,
it was like, it still had like dirt on it from, it's like, I don't know what it was.
I was driving.
It was such a surprise. I was just like, here it is, Lawrence Newton Bridge there.
So this is the advantage of like having plans that private developments get really excited about.
Yeah.
So was it Wayfair that did it? I mean, is it?
It was the West Blocks development.
I thought it was
As part, they were.
part of the apartments or.
I mean, it ends, you know, it just ends, but it was great. I mean, it was nice to see something, so.
Barber Street is in the works, so soon.
Yeah, so Newton Bridge to Barber, just get it, it's cool.
There's some other things hopefully coming into fruition soon that we have been part of. So we'll see. There's more. All right, y'all.
There is a new group in Athens, the electric bike group of Athens, which I've seen on Facebook. They're having monthly rides, and it is specifically geared for targeting people of color and electric bikes. And they have some solid community leaders that are involved with it. So
Great.
that'll be a great voice for that community.
They have thoughts, they should come to our public meetings.
Absolutely. All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
First, second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.